First Contact Protocol. Admiral Thane Coraxus stood before the massive viewing portal of his flagship, the Sovereign's Fist, watching the small blue world rotate slowly beneath them. His four arms were clasped behind his back in the traditional pose of hegemony authority, while his primary eyes studied the primitive planet with cold calculation. The secondary eyes on his temples scanned the tactical displays floating nearby, confirming what his scouts had reported months ago. Another backwards world ripe for integration, he murmured to his aide, Commander Vex. The younger officer's scaled hide shifted from blue to green, indicating nervous excitement. Yes, Admiral. Our long-range scans confirm they have barely achieved basic spaceflight. No energy weapons, no quantum shields, no faster-than-light capabilities. The integration should be complete within a solar rotation. Coraxus nodded slowly. In his 3 centuries of service to the galactic hegemony, he had overseen the integration of 47 worlds. Each had followed the same predictable pattern: initial shock, desperate negotiations, futile resistance, and finally grateful submission to the superior hegemony civilization. These humans would be no different. Begin the standard protocol, he commanded. Open communication channels to their planetary leadership. The bridge of the Sovereign's Fist hummed with activity as technicians activated the ship's massive communication array. The vessel itself was a testament to hegemony engineering. 3 kilometers of hardened battle steel, armed with weapons that could crack continents and shielded by energy barriers that had never been breached. Behind it, the rest of the 3rd Integration Fleet waited in perfect formation. 12 heavy cruisers, 30 destroyers, and countless support vessels. Communication established. Admiral, reported the signals officer. We are broadcasting on all their primitive frequencies. Coraxus straightened his ceremonial robes and activated the holographic transmitter. His image would now appear on every screen, every broadcast device, every communication terminal across the human world. Inhabitants of the 3rd planet, he began, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. I am Admiral Thane Coraxus of the Galactic Hegemony. Your world has been selected for integration into our civilization. You have 72 of your hours to surrender unconditionally and prepare for peaceful transition to hegemony governance. Resistance will be met with appropriate force. This is your only warning. He cut the transmission and turned to Commander Vex. Monitor their responses. I expect the usual panic, followed by pathetic attempts at negotiation. But as the hours passed, something unusual began to happen. Instead of panicked broadcasts or desperate pleas for mercy, the humans responded with what could only be described as organized curiosity. Their communication networks buzzed with scientific discussions, tactical analyses, and what appeared to be preparation. In the depths of the Cheyenne Mountain complex, Dr. Elena Vasquez stood before a room full of world leaders, military commanders, and scientists. The holographic display behind her showed the alien fleet in perfect detail, courtesy of observation systems the aliens had no idea existed. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. This is the scenario we've been preparing for since the Kepler array detected their expansion pattern 15 years ago. President Chen leaned forward. Dr. Vasquez, please tell me the Silent Shield project is operational. Elena smiled grimly. More than operational, Madam President. It's been waiting for exactly this moment. She gestured to the display, which now showed a 3-dimensional map of Earth's solar system. What the hegemony sees is what we want them to see. Primitive satellites, basic communications, simple chemical rockets. What they don't see is the network of quantum-masked observation posts, the orbital defense platforms disguised as space debris, and the fact that we've been studying their technology for over a decade. General Morrison, the Joint Chiefs Chairman, spoke up. How did we keep this hidden from their scouts? The same way Earth has hidden from galactic attention for millions of years, Elena replied. We're very good at looking harmless, but human ingenuity has never been about looking impressive. It's about being surprising. She activated another display showing sleek spacecraft unlike anything in public knowledge. Project Terran Response has been building these vessels in hidden asteroid facilities. They don't look like much compared to hegemony ships, but they're designed around human advantages. Adaptability, creativity, and the willingness to try things no sane species would attempt. Back aboard the Sovereign's Fist, Admiral Caraxes was growing increasingly frustrated. The humans had neither surrendered nor begun the expected panicked negotiations. Instead, their communication seemed almost excited. "Admiral," Commander Vex reported, his hide now displaying nervous purple stripes, "the humans have sent a formal response. Finally, display it." The main screen showed a middle-aged human woman in what appeared to be a military uniform. She was standing in some kind of command center, and behind her dozens of other humans worked calmly at various stations. "Admiral Caraxes," the woman began, "I am General Patricia Hayes, speaking for the Unified Earth Defense Council. We've received your ultimatum and appreciate the notice. However, we must respectfully decline your offer of integration." Caraxes blinked all four eyes in surprise. No species had ever declined integration so politely. General Hayes continued, "We've taken the liberty of studying your integration methods over the past several years, and while we're sure they work well for other species, humans have a bit of a stubborn streak. We prefer to chart our own course." "Impossible," Caraxes muttered. "They couldn't have been studying us. Our scouts are undetectable." As if hearing his comment, General Hayes smiled. "Your scout ships are quite impressive, Admiral, but they're not as stealthy as you might think. We've been tracking them since they entered our system. In fact, we've learned quite a bit from observing your technology. Thank you for the education." Commander Vex's hide had gone completely white. "Admiral, our sensors are detecting something. Multiple contacts appearing throughout the system." Caraxes spun toward the tactical display, where moments before their sensors had shown empty space dotted with primitive human installations. Now hundreds of contacts were appearing. Ships, platforms, and structures that had somehow been invisible were now broadcasting clear energy signatures. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Quantum masking," came General Hayes' voice from the still active communication channel. "Borrowed the concept from your own stealth technology, but humans have a talent for improving on existing ideas. We've been building, learning, and preparing while you've been watching us play with chemical rockets and radio telescopes." The tactical display now showed a defensive network that rivaled anything in hegemony space. Orbital platforms bristling with unknown weapons, sleek ships that moved with impossible agility, and energy signatures that suggested technology far more advanced than initial scans had indicated. "Admiral," his weapons officer reported, "I'm reading power levels that shouldn't be possible for a pre-integration species. Some of these installations are generating more energy than our secondary fusion cores." Caraxes felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. "Uncertainty." "General Hayes," he said, reactivating the communication channel, "your species has violated standard galactic development protocols. How did you achieve this level of technology without guidance from an established civilization?" General Hayes' smile widened. "Admiral, you're making the same mistake that many species make when they encounter humans. You're assuming we need guidance. We've been solving impossible problems and exceeding expectations for our entire evolutionary history. Give us a challenge, and we'll find 7 different ways to overcome it. And at least 3 of those ways will involve repurposing something that was never meant to be used that way." She gestured to something off-screen, and the tactical display updated to show human ships moving into formation around the hegemony fleet. They didn't move like military vessels from any known civilization. Their flight patterns were chaotic, unpredictable, and somehow perfectly coordinated at the same time. "You see, Admiral, humans have this peculiar trait. The more impossible something seems, the more determined we become to prove it can be done. When we realized a galactic empire was expanding in our direction, we didn't despair. We got to work." Admiral Caraxes studied the tactical situation with growing respect and concern. The humans had managed to completely conceal a military buildup that rivaled established galactic powers. Their technology appeared to be a hybrid of concepts borrowed from multiple civilizations, improved with innovations that defied conventional understanding. "This is your final opportunity," he broadcast to the human ships. "Stand down and accept integration. The might of the hegemony cannot be resisted." General Hayes' response was immediate and tinged with what could only be described as anticipation. "Admiral, with all due respect, you have no idea what human resistance looks like, but you're about to find out." As her words echoed across the communication channels, every human ship in the system began to move simultaneously. They didn't attack. Not yet. Instead, they began to dance. There was no other word for it. The human vessels moved in patterns that should have been impossible, weaving between the hegemony ships with reckless precision, broadcasting music, and what appeared to be celebration. "What are they doing?" Commander Vex asked, his hide cycling through colors of confusion. "I believe," Admiral Caraxes said slowly, "they're having fun." And in that moment, he realized that the hegemony might have encountered something far more dangerous than a primitive species with hidden weapons. They had found a species that treated the impossible as merely another challenge to overcome, and who faced overwhelming odds with joy rather than fear. The stage was set for a confrontation unlike any in galactic history. The Terran Gambit. Admiral Caraxes decided that a demonstration of power was necessary. These humans, despite their surprising technological advancement, needed to understand the reality of their situation. He selected what appeared to be a major military installation on the northern continent, a facility his scouts had identified as a primary defense complex. "Target the installation designated Delta 7, he commanded. "Single plasma lance strike. Minimum power. We want to demonstrate capability, not eliminate their leadership entirely." The Sovereign's fist pivoted slightly, its massive main cannon aligning with the target. Caraxes felt the familiar satisfaction of watching a younger species learn the hard truth about galactic power dynamics. The plasma lance fired, a beam of concentrated energy capable of vaporizing several city blocks. The beam struck the target facility perfectly. For a moment, brilliant light obscured their sensors. When the energy dissipated, Caraxes expected to see a crater where the human military base had stood. Instead, he saw something impossible. The facility was still there, completely undamaged. But now it flickered slightly, like a poorly tuned holographic projection. Then it vanished entirely, revealing nothing but empty grassland beneath. "Report," Caraxes barked. "Admiral." His sensor officer's voice cracked with confusion. The target wasn't there. It was some kind of projection. "Our energy readings indicate the beam struck nothing but ground." From the communication channel, General Hayes' voice carried obvious amusement. "Admiral, surely you didn't think we put our actual military installations where your scouts could find them?" "That was hologram Site 17. We have about 300 of them scattered around the planet. Keeps visitors guessing about our real capabilities." Commander Vex's hide had turned an alarming shade of orange. "Admiral, if their military installations aren't where we detected them, then where are they?" As if in answer to his question, space around the hegemony fleet suddenly erupted with new energy signatures. Massive structures previously invisible began appearing, not ships, but installations that had somehow been completely hidden from sensors. Orbital platforms the size of cities materialized around Earth, their hulls bristling with weapons that definitely hadn't been there moments before. "Quantum stealth fields," General Hayes explained cheerfully. "Another one of those borrowed technologies we improved upon. We've been building in your blind spots for 15 years. Captain Sarah Chen's voice crackled over the tactical communication network from her position aboard the human vessel Indomitable Spirit. "General Hayes, this is Chen. My squadron is in position. Request permission to begin the demonstration." "Permission granted, Captain. Show our guests what human creativity looks like." What happened next defied every tactical manual in hegemony military doctrine. The human ships didn't attack the way any civilized species would attack. Instead of forming orderly battle lines or executing coordinated fleet maneuvers, they began what could only be described as controlled chaos. Captain Chen's ship suddenly accelerated directly toward the Sovereign's fist at a speed that should have liquefied any crew inside. At the last possible moment, it split into 3 separate sections, each spinning in a different direction, while maintaining perfect flight coordination. The sections weaved between the hegemony ship's defensive turrets, which couldn't track targets moving in such erratic patterns. How are they surviving those acceleration forces? Commander Vex demanded. Inertial dampening technology, came another human voice over the communication channel. This one belonged to Dr. Elena Vasquez, speaking from what appeared to be a massive underground facility. We started with artificial gravity concepts found in your own technical databases and evolved them into something rather more versatile. Our pilots can pull maneuvers that would turn most species into organic paste. But it wasn't just the impossible flight patterns that concerned Admiral Coraxus. The human weapons were unlike anything in hegemony experience. Instead of energy lances or plasma cannons, they were using repurposed industrial equipment as weapons of war. One human ship fired what appeared to be a modified asteroid mining laser, cutting through a hegemony destroyer's shields like they were made of paper. Another vessel launched what looked like cargo containers, which suddenly sprouted engines and guidance systems mid-flight, transforming into precision-guided explosives. They're using mining equipment and shipping containers as weapons, his tactical officer reported in disbelief. Human ingenuity at its finest, General Hayes commented. When you're a species that's had to survive on a single planet for your entire existence, you learn to make every tool serve multiple purposes. That mining laser was originally designed to cut through asteroids for mineral extraction. Turns out it works quite well on energy shields too. Captain Chen's squadron had reformed into a single vessel, which then promptly split into 7 smaller ships, each one targeting a different hegemony vessel simultaneously. Their coordination was perfect, but their tactics were completely unpredictable. Admiral, Dr. Vasquez's voice continued, I should probably mention that every human ship out there is crewed by volunteers. Not conscripts, not duty-bound soldiers, but people who chose to be here because they believe in defending their home. That might explain why they're fighting with such enthusiasm. Indeed, Coraxus could hear human voices over the open communication channels, and they were laughing. Actually laughing while engaged in combat with a superior galactic force. Chen to Martinez, came one voice. Did you see that maneuver I just pulled? I call it the impossible turn of certain death. Show off, came the reply. Watch this. I'm going to thread my ship through their docking bay and come out the other side. That's structurally impossible, Martinez. Since when has impossible stopped humans from trying? Admiral Coraxus watched in growing amazement as a human fighter actually did fly completely through the hangar bay of one of his cruisers, somehow avoiding every structural support and emergency barrier, while firing its weapons in all directions. How are they calculating those flight paths? He asked. Admiral, his navigation officer reported, according to our computers, most of these maneuvers have a success probability of less than 1%. They should all be dead. But they're not, Dr. Vasquez interjected, apparently monitoring hegemony communications. That's because you're calculating based on what a rational species would attempt. Humans have never been entirely rational. We have this peculiar habit of succeeding at things that should be impossible, usually through pure stubbornness and creative problem-solving. The human orbital platforms had now revealed their full capabilities. Instead of conventional weapons, they were launching what appeared to be modified spacecraft. Vessels that transformed mid-flight into different configurations depending on their targets. A single platform could apparently deploy fighters, bombers, missiles, or defensive drones, all from the same launch tubes. Modular design philosophy, General Hayes explained. Why build 10 different types of weapons when you can build one weapon that becomes 10 different types depending on what you need? Admiral Caraxes realized that his fleet, which had never faced serious resistance in over a century of conquest, was being systematically outmaneuvered by a species that treated warfare like some kind of extreme sport. The humans weren't just defending themselves, they were innovating in real time, adapting their tactics based on how the hegemony forces responded. Admiral, Commander Vex said quietly, "Our casualty reports are coming in. We've lost 6 destroyers and 2 cruisers. The humans have lost 3 fighters. 3 fighters against an entire hegemony battle fleet." "Yes, sir." "And according to the communication intercepts, those 3 pilots ejected safely and are already requesting new ships." Captain Chen's voice came over the communication channel again. "Admiral Caraxes, this is Captain Sarah Chen. I wanted to thank you for this opportunity. It's been decades since humanity had a chance to test our capabilities against a truly advanced civilization. Your fleet has provided invaluable data about our defensive systems. You're using us as a test scenario?" Caraxes asked, incredulous. "Well, yes," Chen replied matter-of-factly. "We've been preparing for galactic contact our entire lives, but theoretical preparation only goes so far. Nothing beats practical experience. Your attack has helped us identify several areas where our systems can be improved." Dr. Vasquez's voice added, "We've also learned quite a bit about hegemony technology. Your energy shielding is impressive, but it has some interesting resonance frequencies that can be exploited. Your weapons are powerful, but somewhat predictable in their targeting algorithms. And your ships, while magnificently engineered, are designed for conventional warfare against conventional opponents. Unfortunately for you," General Hayes concluded, "humans are anything but conventional." The tactical display now showed a situation that would have been unthinkable hours earlier. The hegemony fleet, which had arrived expecting an easy conquest, was now surrounded by human forces that seemed to multiply every time they revealed a new capability. The humans weren't just defending. They were demonstrating that they could continue this engagement indefinitely, adapting and improving with each exchange. Admiral Caraxes faced a choice that no hegemony commander had ever confronted. Escalate to full military engagement against a species that seemed to treat impossible odds as motivation, or acknowledge that these humans represented something entirely new in galactic politics. "General Hayes," he said finally, "I believe we need to discuss terms." "Terms?" Hayes replied. "Admiral, we haven't even started showing you what humans can really do yet. This was just the warm-up." And in that moment, Admiral Caraxes understood that humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy in the most unmistakable way possible. They hadn't just resisted conquest. They had demonstrated that some species were too dangerous to conquer, too innovative to predict, and too stubborn to ever give up. The hegemony's expansion had just encountered its first immovable object, and that object was laughing while it fought back.